And we are live. Canned rock music was a little aggressive today, Mace.
Sometimes I just like to listen to it. Sometimes my brain just drifts off. Sometimes I hear this music in my dreams.
This is why you can't have a good song as an alarm. Because if you have a good song as your alarm, then you'll just start singing it in your sleep and you'll stay asleep.
Well, the other thing is sometimes if the song that's the alarm is so familiar, you sleep through it because you know it so well, right?
Right.
It's like deep in your subconscious.
Right. Just drift away. You know what I'm dreaming about? I'm dreaming about some playmakers for Bo Nix because they could help Bo, but who is it? Who emerges? And I made the suggestion, Mace, I want to bounce it off you because of the success we've seen from Justin Sternod on defense, going from special teams to defense. Let's start with Marvin Mims. Could we not see that for Marvin? And I don't care if he doesn't run every route. I don't care if whatever, but it's like there's ways to use him. Xavier Worthy scored last night for the Chiefs when he was in the backfield. And it's like, Marvin couldn't do that? Like, why can't that step be taken when it's clear that more playmakers need to be not even added, Mace? I think that's the wrong way to say it. I just think more playmakers, they need to feature him more. Marvin Mims could be a playmaker for you.
Well, he had that jet sweep, right, on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Picked up 17 yards, and they had one reception for 7 yards, and they brought the toy out of the box, played with it for a little bit, and then put the toy back in the box because at the end of the day, he played only 12 snaps.
That's a mistake. That's a mistake with that sort of speed because when we say playmakers, we're talking about guys with speed, guys that can make plays, guys that can make something out of nothing, like Jaleel McLaughlin does. You know, when somebody's right on him and he just can drop a leg, take it away, and then score and get to the pylon.
And
so,
like,
more Marvin Mims would make sense.
Yeah, and Jaleel's basically become RB2. They didn't get Blake Watson out there, so it was all Javonte and Jaleel. They had 63 offensive snaps in the game. Javonte played 40, Jaleel played 23. That's about it's a 63-37 split percentage-wise. So you're getting him out there. The two guys you talk about as far as playmakers at the wide receiver position are Marvin Mims Jr. and Troy Franklin. And Mims got out there for 12 snaps. Troy Franklin got out there for 11 and, of course, had the potential touchdown go through the wickets. Did have another catch for 20 yards, a learning experience catch because the clock is ticking down and he signals first down. You're like, no. And he kind of caught himself.
He caught himself, yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, crap. Can't do that. No, don't have time to do that. Don't.
Right.
Also, I'm sure probably through his after the game, he's like, "Oh no, I was that guy. Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy that signals first down. We don't have any timeouts. You got to down the ball." So
yeah, as Peyton Manning reminded the public a few weeks ago on his Manning cast, get the ball to the umpire. That's what you do. You don't celebrate. You don't put the ball down. You take the ball, find the umpire, hand it to him. And don't set the ball down. The umpire has to put it down anyway. That's why you find the umpire, get him the ball as quickly as possible. That's how you expedite things. He'll learn from that.
Yeah, he'll learn from that. I like what Corey says here in the chat room. What's up, Corey? Says Pookie's getting his groove back. Yeah, Pookie is getting back, and after 100 yards, what was the number, Mace? 23 games, right?
23 games without 100 yards from scrimmage, and he snapped that streak on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. So playmakers can be the speed guys. Playmakers can also be Javonte, a dash more of Jaleel. But for me, it comes down to the fantasy I have in my head, Mace, which is this, that it's a meritocracy in the league for the players, not for coaches, not at all for coaches. But when I see what Justin Sternod did and going from a guy who wasn't good defensively, who now is really good defensively for this team, and it took a few years.
Yeah.
Okay, Marvin is cantankerous. Marvin may be frustrated. I'm just guessing there. But, like, why cannot that be rewarded with the little things that he's doing in the very few snaps that he's getting. I just think it's wrong-headed when your offense is not necessarily firing all cylinders to not use Marvin Mims more with that speed and be creative with that speed.
Well, I've made the Rick Upchurch comparison quite a bit, going way back to the 1970s. Rick Upchurch was one of the many Ring of Famers who was in the house on Sunday as the Broncos celebrated Steve Foley and Riley Odoms getting into the Ring of Fame, and of course also celebrate that 1977 team of which Upchurch was a part. Let me just read you some numbers here from Rick Upchurch's first 4 years. When in those first 4 years as a pro, he was a Pro Bowler twice as a returner. So he'd already arrived as a returner. His first 4 seasons, 18, 12, 12, and 17. Those were his reception totals. Now, obviously, it was a different time. First 3 years of that part of the whole dead ball era of the NFL. But point being, he wasn't a primary option or usually even a number 2 option. But eventually, he blossomed. By year 5, he had 64 catches, 937 yards, 7 touchdowns, and remained a pretty productive receiver. Not a 1,000-yarder, but a solidly productive receiver for the rest of his career. That I don't want it to take that long for Marvin Mims Jr., but that may well be his arc here. That we're not talking about him becoming a truly productive offensive player, except in these occasional bursts, until he refines his craft, until he runs better routes, until he does the technical things that are expected of a receiver in the Sean Payton offense. In the meantime, though, you still need to create things for him because this offense still lacks playmaking juice.
Yes, right.
It's not to say it wasn't good on Sunday, putting up 34 points on the Las Vegas Raiders. 27 of them accounted for by your offense in the game. But I'll throw these numbers at you. 26, 38, 50, 58, and 39. That's the net yardage on your 5 scoring drives. So 3 of your 5 scoring drives weren't even 40 yards in length. So you need work to become more consistent, to be able to get those long drives, some of which are going to be short. Few are going to be short in play number, because hopefully you can start getting these explosives from these players who do have some explosive capability. And we've mentioned running backs and we've mentioned wide receivers. We haven't mentioned the tight end position yet.
Yeah, we're going to get there. And a lot of those short drives are due to Marvin Mims with big returns. So for me, I'm like, give him Franklin snaps. I'm fine with that. Like, it's not working. It could work eventually, and Troy Franklin could be a Pro Bowl receiver eventually. But right now, it's not working with Franklin, and I'd rather see if Marvin can spark an offense. So that was what, 12 and 11 snaps?
11 snaps for Franklin, 12 snaps for Mims, yes.
So now we're about 20 snaps for Mims, Okay, I'm fine with that. See what he can do. And if he doesn't do it, then okay, go back to Franklin.
Well, and and obviously not an explosive type of receiver, more of a chain mover potentially. But Devon Vele appears to have been Wally Pipped in the lineup here.
How? He was 8 targets, 8 catches.
Yeah, and then he gets a rib injury, and now he's good to go and still inactive.
It's curious. Like, and again, like I don't think they're forcing it, Mace, with Troy Franklin, but it's just like, okay, we can see that later. Right now, I know it worked with Vele. We saw it from rookie minicamp. And we saw it in week 1. It worked with Vele, who can be a playmaker and moving the chains, I guess, if you want to call that like a junior playmaker or something. But moving the chains is a skill. And having that reliability out there, that's a skill to then get more plays for your playmakers. Sometimes it comes down to just moving the chains so that you can, live to fight another day on that next play.
Well, the way you think of it, and me in my baseball terms, moving the chains, it's like getting on base. Doesn't matter if it's happening via a base hit or a walk. The goal is to get on base and keep the line moving. getting a first down. I mean, to me, that's a skill. That's keeping the line moving, keeping the threat alive on offense. I mean, it's also interesting to to look at the production in terms of generating first downs. Uh, to just go to the tight end position for a moment, the Broncos have only generated 2 first downs for the tight end position. One of them was Troutman's catch on Sunday.
Yeah.
No team has created fewer first downs from tight end in the pass catching game. I mean, that's absurdly bad.
That's a glaring hole, especially when we've talked to Sean Payton a year ago, basically, Mace, about the Joker. Remember when everyone was excited about Dulcich is a Joker? And then it's like, well, wait a second, Jalil's a Joker too. So they're not getting much from their Joker.
Could Albert O have done any worse?
No.
If they'd kept him than Greg
No.
Dulcich in that Joker type of role. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, obviously Dulcich got hurt right out of the blocks. Unfortunately, that's part and parcel of what you have to consider with Greg Dulcich is that injury rate. And this year he's been healthy and just has been a complete non-factor. Now, one thing that I thought was interesting, Cecil, and this also I think factors into the decision that was made on Sunday to play Lucas Kroll ahead of Greg Dulcich. Lucas Kroll plays special teams. Greg Dulcich does not.
Yeah. No, and as you're maneuvering on game day, you're going to need those guys that can do both.
Lucas Kroll played 8 special team snaps against the Raiders, which is 8 more than Greg Dulcich has played for his entire career.
I was going to say, pretty much in his whole career.
I had to go look it up to make sure, but yeah, he's never played a special team snap. And I think this is another thing when you're talking about roster construction on game day and why you saw Kroll out there is effectively you're saying, okay, Adam Troutman's tight end 1. So tight end number 3 has to play teams. Greg Dulcich is tight end 3. He wasn't playing teams. So you bring somebody up in Lucas Kroll who can do that as well. Because in terms of snaps, by the way, snap count on Sunday, Adam Troutman 34, Nate Adkins 32, Lucas Kroll 18. Nate Adkins is your tight end 2 now, but it's part of going with a bigger personnel grouping as well because Adkins, as we've seen, really not a threat to catch the ball. He's got 1 catch in each of the last 3 games for a total of 14 yards.
Right. So it goes back to add more blockers in. For me, Mace, it goes back to like, okay, Sean, you could declare a little differently. You could even have 2 tight ends on the field, but the Kroll's the receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And is it just again, I don't want to use the word trust. He trusts Bo Nix, but it's like, take the training wheels off. The kid's going to have to deal with it anyway. And I know it was Max Crosby, okay? And that's amazing. But it's like, at some point, you can't keep protecting him with Nate Adkins. That's not helping. Have Kroll out there. Give Kroll the 30 snaps. See what that looks like. You know?
You saw Kroll doing some blocking as well. This is another thing with Kroll that you don't have with Dulcich.
Right.
Kroll can be a factor in heavy packages, and Kroll, he's not a great blocker. He is a willing blocker who's bigger physically than Dulcich is.
Right. Effort guy.
Yeah.
The bad thing is sometimes when Kroll blocks, he doesn't know where to go.
I know. Well, that's the whole thing. It came up this
team
summer.
Doesn't like. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's why McGlinchey was yelling at him in practice back this summer.
Right. When he connects, he can get you blocked, but sometimes he's like, which way did he go? Which way did he go?
I know.
Well, Adam Troutman talked about Kroll. You want to set this up or you want me to play it?
Let's play it. I asked Troutman yesterday about Kroll, specifically because Adam Troutman knows Lucas Kroll very well. They've played their entire careers together. They were together in New Orleans in 2022. Really, aside from off-season and training camp in 23, they've been in the same locker room, and Troutman has become something of a mentor for Lucas Kroll. You could almost say Troutman's another coach in that room along with Declan Doyle. So I asked Adam about, Lucas kind of, keeping his focus during those 4 weeks when he was inactive because, frankly, for a while this offseason and even early in the training camp, looked like Lucas Kroll was going to be getting a jersey, and then he wasn't. So here's what Adam had to say about Lucas Kroll and how he navigated through those first 4 weeks.
He has a great personality in that he's always up. Like, he's always got high energy. He's very competitive. And you could see it during the practices, when he's inactive and he's on scout team, and making sure he's staying ready in case, he ever does come up or did come up, obviously. So I think the growth more so for him is mentally. Obviously, I've been around him for a while, so I know that from firsthand experience. But just like things that he's been able to learn, and I've been able to help him with. Declan's been able to help him with in these last what's he in his third year. So throughout these last 3 years, he's really grown from that standpoint.
Mentally,
like a proud papa,
yeah,
right? Like a proud papa out there.
Yeah, but also the mental side of it. Physically, Lucas Kroll has the gifts to be successful in this league.
Sure.
He's got size. He's got length, catch radius.
A little bit of speed.
Yeah, can get downfield. I would like to see some similar routes to the ones that we saw from time to time late last year when you got him on a post. There was that play against the Raiders last January. Jack Jones has the breakup. If not for a great play on Jones's part, Lucas Kroll has his first professional touchdown. I think Kroll is close to having a breakthrough. But I would also say this, if he's going to have a breakthrough, it needs to be soon, because if the Broncos hang around and are competitive, this is a team that could be, and this is a nice change from previous years, could be buying at the trade deadline rather than selling. And when you look at positions at which they might be buying, if you can't get more production from the tight end position, that's going to be the top of the list. Right now, the Broncos, I mentioned fewer first downs produced from the tight end position than any team in the league. Also, the only team in the league whose tight end complement does not have 100 yards for the season. And the Broncos aren't even close. They're down at 79 on 11 receptions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's bad. That's bad.
That is bad.
I'm looking to David Njoku. I'm looking to a little bit of fan service with Dallin Holker. Like there's some tight ends out there that could be available. I know the reports now are like Amari Cooper is available for a third. I know that's a receiver, not a tight end. But if you're buyers, if you keep winning and you're buyers, well, you're buying on offense. Your defense is more than fine. Let's keep it up. But you're buying on offense, and maybe a surprise move based on where we thought the Broncos would be this season. Is your numbers piece said one team that started 0-2 and then went 3-2 and then made the postseason
in the last 8 years since 2015.
Yeah,
only one team, and that team was coached by Sean Payton. Now that team also had Drew Brees at quarterback. That was the 2017 Saints.
Yeah.
So every other team since 2015 that started 0-2 and got to 3-2 missed the playoffs. Now, if you go further back than that, there are other success stories. The Giants won the Super Bowl 42, when they beat the undefeated Patriots. The Giants won after going from 0-2 to 3-2. The Cowboys won their second Super Bowl with Jimmy Johnson, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, etc., doing the same kind of thing. Remember, Emmitt Smith held out to start the year. Back in 93, they started 0-2, and then they basically went on a roll after that. But look, if we take a broad sample size here of teams since 1970 that have done that, it was actually really interesting, Cease, because it shows you that there's really nothing to be gleaned from it. The Broncos, you're feeling good, but this season can very much go either way here. There are some teams, because you've got some teams that went down to 10, 11, 12 losses. You've got some teams that rode the momentum of the playoffs. And it's basically about one third playoffs, 1/3 losing seasons, 1/3 right around 500. So it also shows you momentum is a fleeting thing.
Yes.
And maybe not an actual construct. The cliche in baseball is momentum is as good as the next day's starting pitcher. In football, I'd say momentum is the next possession, because you could say the Broncos had momentum going into the Raiders game on Sunday, and then all of a sudden Brock Bowers gets PJ locked down, catches a ball, and goes to the house. And at that moment, the Raiders had momentum, and it was surging. And then the Broncos seized it back because Minshew made one bad pass. It's just is what it is. Do you think Mark Andrews of Baltimore might come on the market at tight end?
Rigo in the chat room brought that up. And when they have Charlie Kolar and Isaiah Likely, by the way, they drafted Kolar in front of Likely.
Yes.
Both you and I wanted Likely because we saw him on the All-Star road trip, probably the Senior Bowl. Might have been Shrine Bowl, but either way,
I think Likely was Senior Bowl.
Was he Senior Bowl? Okay. Well, we've liked him for a long time. They're not going to get rid of him. And they drafted Charlie Kolar in front of him, who also had, I believe, 2 touchdowns? We didn't have a touchdown last game. Anyway, Mark Andrews could be available. What's the price tag? And what's the, how much do you have to give up for him? I think he can still play.
He can still play. He just had a 4-catch, 55-yard day, including a 27-yard catch last Sunday against Cincinnati. And typically teams that are in the window like Baltimore aren't deducting from their roster. They're adding.
Yeah. To a conference opponent that has the same record as you. I mean, you could see Baltimore, or you will see Baltimore later on in the year. That could have playoff implications, and you could also see them in the postseason if both teams made it.
Yeah, the trade deadline, if I recall, is like right after that Baltimore game.
Isn't it week 9 this year? Is that right? They moved it back, so it's a little bit later. So,
November 5th. That's what I mean. It's right after the Baltimore game.
Okay.
It's usually it's October. It's late October this year. It's early November. They moved it back 1 week. So, but I don't see that they would. Again, I think they're more likely to just kind of ride what they've got and be happy with the embarrassment of riches. I know you've mentioned Kyle Pitts. Even though he doesn't do everything you want a tight end to do, sort of the same thing with the Falcons as with the Ravens. And I mean, here's a guy who's actually coming off of a really good game against Tampa Bay last week.
Right.
And Atlanta might be coming to the realization here after a 26-24 win and a 30-6-30 win that, hey, we're going to have to win some shootouts here. And would it be wise to take away a weapon, even though he isn't as decisive in the blocking game as I think Zach Robinson and Raheem Morris would like? I'd say no. Basically, it may well be a situation where, as John Fox would say, no one's coming to save us.
Yes, right. It's fun to think about, but it might just be the guys that are already here.
This might it's figure something out with this group. Troutman's gonna be reliable. He's gonna block. I would like to see them just try to force it to him a little bit more, because you and I know, and it was college. We get that. There's a quality pass catcher there.
It was Dayton.
Yeah, that's why they drafted him. I mean, and Sean Payton moved up to draft Adam Troutman
and gave up a lot to move up. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Mace, but he had 14 touchdowns his final year.
Yeah, I mean, Dayton.
He was a hog.
Yeah, Dayton's playing at the non-scholarship FCS level, so it's down there. But man, like he was like the cliche man among boys, I think, was very apt in terms of watching him down there.
Right.
I got Dallas Goddard vibes watching Troutman when he was at Dayton. And it hasn't happened yet, but I think maybe just set him up a little bit more. That was a nice pitch and catch there that he had in the red zone on Sunday. Let's see some more of that.
He's going to be in the right spot.
Yeah.
He could turn it upfield, and he's right here. And you know where he's going to be.
You trust him. And then put Lucas Kroll in some positions for him to succeed. Nate Adkins is sort of a different category because he's a blocker.
H-back, whatever.
H-back. You're kind of cross-training him to replace Michael Burton next year almost.
Yeah.
Perhaps, like, if you say, okay, we're gonna move on from Burton, although Burton's another one of those guys that just Sean Payton loves, man.
Hey, if you're a Sean Payton guy, you're gonna have a job.
Yeah. Lil Jordan Humphrey, Sean Payton loves you.
You got a job, right?
Yeah. I'd say he loves Adam Troutman too, because they got him done before he could test the market this past spring. They make that was one of the first items on the checklist that got crossed off.
I bet Adam Troutman is a coach for Sean Payton, like Zach Strief.
I think that's coming someday.
Yeah.
Or if Sean Payton is retired from coaching, he's working for somebody like a Dan Campbell. Like he's.
Mm-hmm.
I think if Adam wants to coach, there's going to be a job for him somewhere.
There's going to be opportunity there.
He'd be really good at it. I think he would absolutely succeed at it.
Yeah, great communicator.
Yes.
That is for sure. Sean Payton, let's play this before we're out of here, because he talked about what is it? Pieces of the puzzle. Is that how he said it? Like, you got to put more pieces of the puzzle around Nix.
Yeah.
He's fully aware of this, Mace.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's play the comments.
Yeah.
Dude, I think he's playing with confidence, and every week his feet, make some plays for us that are important. And then I keep getting back to, I think there were 2 sacks yesterday, but he's hard to sack. And, when he plays, you're not on the cusp of a minus play. He's got real good command of what he's doing. And I've said this before, I'll say it again, we got to keep painting a better picture around him.
We got to keep painting a better picture around him.
Right.
And that's not the first time he's used that analogy.
Waiting for those happy little trees, Mace.
Yeah. Right now, the landscape's kind of barren.
The canvas is blank.
Yes. Waiting for somebody to step in. Bring something dynamic to this offense. You played a bad defense this past week.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to have the same luxury this time around.
Chargers are going to be a different story. Before we're out of here, also some updates, some news.
Yes.
Newsy, you want to get newsy talking about Cam Fleming? News.
Actually, stand by for news. You know. Good day.
Good day.
Okay, let's just kind of take stock of the housekeeping here. So Cam Fleming's back on the practice squad.
Right.
You've got, of course, Alex Palczewski, who's dealing with the high ankle sprain. You've got Mike McGlinchey coming off of injured reserve as well. So you're just making sure you're covered there. Salvin Ahmed, Quentin Newsome, they're both released from the practice squad. I think this could be as simple as you've got guys coming off of injured reserve. Damari Mathis was eligible to come off of IR last week. Audric Estime is eligible to come off of IR this week. Will Sherman, also, to talk about the tackle position, Will Sherman on the practice squad, saw him in a walking boot late last week. So he's on the injured list as well.
An ankle thing, I think, right?
Yeah.
And suffered in practice.
Yep. And of course also with Luke Wattenberg, injured. You've got a practice squad center added, and Lavelle Bailey looks like he's going up to the 53 as he's about to run out of elevations.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Lot of housekeeping today. And we'll get a feel tomorrow and going forward for what happens with Palczewski, whether he's going to go to injured reserve or not. I mean, certainly, if you're talking about the roster calculus here, that would actually be pretty easy if you just say, okay, McGlinchey's coming back, Palczewski's going to IR, etc. So, and don't forget, if you're practicing, you don't have the ramp up period is multiple weeks. Once you start practicing on IR, you've got 3 weeks. So you could be practicing and still on injured reserve, and they're not necessarily going to play you on Sunday. They could take their time. With Mathis and Estime, you could have them practicing, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to have them up. So you're playing that game as well.
Do you know what makes me go like this with the kissy face? Is that the Broncos practice schedule is regular this week.
Oh yeah.
Please don't change it. I was so like hesitant to open that email. I was like, please don't be late. Please don't be late. Please don't be late. Which means we should have our show at 4:30, not 5:30 like last week. So yeah, we can
very nice
get the show in and 2:15 open locker room, and we'll see, man.
It just means you gotta skedaddle your rear end over from the studio.
Yeah, no stopping at Starbucks for me this week. I'll skedaddle over there, and hopefully they're not early. Thank you for letting me know when they were early that one time.
Yeah.
Poor Kia had to run over and let me in. It's like, oh, I was on time. They were early.
You should know it's the NFL Tom Coughlin time. You got to be 15 minutes early, right?
Yeah. Which means I'd have to teleport there from the studio. But either way, Mace, feels good to be here. But also know, I'll quote Star Wars, great kid, don't get cocky.
Yeah.
We've won 3 in a row, coach. Great kid, don't get cocky.
Yeah. The only one who can be cocky today is Nathaniel Hackett, who apparently survived either being potentially fired or removed from play calling. Man.
Yeah.
What a hot mess the Jets are. The Broncos broke them, Cease. The Broncos broke the Aaron Rodgers New York Jets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a crap show.
Aren't you glad the Broncos didn't get Rodgers back in 2022?
I still wanted the chaos. I'll be the guy that
you had chaos. You had a different kind of chaos with Russell Wilson.
Yeah, he had fake chaos.
Yeah. Remember Russell Wilson was Plan B. I mean, basically, it's kind of Hobson's choice between Rodgers and Wilson because both would have led you to the same. But both were the same choice. It wasn't going to work.
Mm-hmm. It's a Hegelian dialectic, right? Like you got 2 choices. It's the same answer.
Yeah,
sucks.
It's the illusion of choice. Turned out that's what it was.
Yep.
Yeah, the illusion of a choice. It actually wasn't. Oh, man alive.
Man, oh man. There we go.
Robert Saleh will be somebody's defensive coordinator next year, and he'll do fabulously. And it wouldn't surprise me if he's a head coach again somewhere, a more functional organization than the Jets appear to be. I mean,
right.
Man. Look, the 2 longest postseason streaks in terms of missing the postseason in the NFL are the Jets and the Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
These organizations are nothing alike in terms of functionality.
Starts at the top.
Starts at the top. You have one owner who's been around for a while, does not appear to know what he's doing.
Nope.
And actually, it was funny. In one of the press releases that the Jets put out that was on their website, they insisted on Woody Johnson being called Ambassador Johnson because, of course, a few years ago, he was the ambassador of the Court of St. James, which is basically a fancy way of saying ambassador of the United Kingdom. And
that's why losing in London was the mortal sin.
Yeah, because there were reports that that got to him because he was entertaining a bunch of people that he'd gotten to know when he was an ambassador over there.
You look bad in front of your friends, means you're getting fired.
Well, and while again, Greg Penner, Woody Johnson, nothing alike. Remember, Nathaniel Hackett did get fired after losing to cousin Stan's Los Angeles Rams on Christmas Day. Effectively, and I remember we talked about this at the time. The Penners brought the drunk uncle to the family dinner.
Mm-hmm.
That was the the Broncos team that day. Someone was going to pay. And because of that, we got 2 glorious weeks of Jerry Rossberg.
We'll never forget you, Jerry Bear.
Uh,
We love you so much.
Best press conferences ever.
Best lectures ever.
Yeah. Yeah, like it was a kinder way of doing what Adam Sandler's character did in The Wedding Singer. I have the microphone and you don't. So you will listen to every word I say.
Right. Casey Mack brings up something super, super quick before we're out of here, Mace.
Yeah.
Because we are going to see Drake May start, and we might see Spencer Rattler start.
Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener will get the call for New Orleans on Sunday against Tampa Bay, and I would imagine whoever gets the call that day is going to get the call 4 days later when the Broncos go down to the Superdome.
Yep.
Yeah, this is
more measuring sticks for Bo, right? Because we're watching him against Jaden and Caleb, and all 3 of them have looked better the last 3 games. Now you're going to get May. Now you're going to get Rattler. Rattler being the one that was an option had they not taken Bo, had they taken, Brock Bowers or whatever, like that was an option there.
Not only an option, I think if the Broncos had not gone with Bo Nix, had not gone a quarterback in round 1, I believe Spencer Rattler would be a Denver Bronco today.
I would not have liked that.
I know you wouldn't have. Also, just a little thing about how quickly it can go. Remember, after a couple of weeks, people were crowning Clint Kubiak and the Saints and their offense and how good everything was going. And now the Saints are 2-3. Derek Carr is hurt, and they have 16 points a game in their last 3 games.
Momentum is fleeting and a wicked mistress. You cannot rely on momentum.
And those first 2 weeks often deceive.
Mm-hmm.
The Saints were more ready to go than a lot of other teams early. Well, what's happened since? Everybody's caught up.
September's still preseason.
Yeah.
Square biz.
It'll be interesting to see, honestly, how the Broncos continue to start seasons because, of course, this is 2 straight years in which they were at least 0-2 under Sean Payton. Now, last year they got going in October. This year they got going a little bit earlier in mid-September when they went down to Tampa. So I'm interested to see the evolution of Sean Payton's teams going forward because there's so much that he puts on them cerebrally that I think maybe some lurching starts might become part and parcel of the Sean Payton era here in Denver. And I mentioned the 2017 Saints. Of course, 2017 was their great draft, and they started 0-2.
Right.
They won the next 8. They didn't just win the next 3. They won the next 8 and took the NFC South that year. And if not for the Minneapolis Miracle, would have been in the NFC Championship game.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
That year's a big time might have been for the Saints. I think Sean Payton gets a lot of flack because the Saints only won once with Drew Brees at quarterback. But goodness gracious, they had some awful gut punch playoff losses. Like the Minneapolis Miracle, the Alex Smith-led comeback in San Francisco.
Friggin' Rams non-call.
The terrible non-call for pass interference. I mean, that one legitimately – I think that one legitimately cost them a championship, a Super Bowl. I think they would have beaten the Patriots the next 2 weeks after that.
Yep.
And then is Sean Payton still here?
Yeah.
I think Sean's pursuing that second ring. I think it's it's driving him. Hopefully not to madness like Lord of the Rings, but my precious.
Yeah, the precious. Right.
All right, I think we're good.
We are good. It is a wrap for today's program, and we appreciate y'all for watching, however you do that. But Andrew, we need their help on YouTube. How can they help us out?
Like,
Comment,
share,
subscribe.
hit that notification bell.
So that you
Never
miss
vid.
vid. That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.